My guest today has advised on over $250 billion of transactions. Let that number sink in for a moment. $250 billion across nearly 15 years at two of the most prestigious names in investment banking, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. He built one of the most decorated careers in European healthcare M&A, advising C-suites and boards of medtech and healthcare companies across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa on M&A deals, capital raising, and strategic positioning. And then he walked away from it. Today, he is Chief Business Development Officer at Vivardis, a category defining dental tech platform based in Zug, Switzerland, working directly with founders and co CEOs on growth capital, IPO preparedness, and global business development. He's made the rare transition from elite banker to operator. And I wanted to understand what that actually feels like from the inside. He holds a master's degree in economics from the Delhi School of Economics, first class bachelor's from Presidency College, Kolkata, and he's joining us today from Switzerland. Sayan Bhattacharya, welcome to M&A Station.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you for the very, very kind introduction.
I'll start with a fun fact. Shayan and me started our careers together at Nomura back in Mumbai in 2011. It's been more than 15 years now. Tell us, Shayan, what led you to investment banking, and was it always the plan coming out of DSE?
Not really. The plan was always to study, and I loved economics, and the plan was actually to study and then go ahead and do more teaching. Frankly, when I
Mm-hmm.
started at Delhi School of Economics, but then I very, very quickly realized that I am really not as brilliant as some of my other classmates at Delhi School of Economics. And so I pivoted to trying and looking for a job. And as you know, given we probably know each other for several years now, Nomura was one of the first companies that came on campus to recruit, which is slightly
Mm-hmm.
different to how it happens here in UK or other parts. And as luck would have it, I got through a job where I did not know properly what an EBITDA multiple or things like that were, but it did work out eventually quite well, I think. Joined Nomura, then went to Goldman, and then, of course, at JP Morgan later. So the plan was to actually teach, but somehow I landed up in investment banking.
And what were your initial years like? Was it as per the expectation when you were thinking to move into investment banking, or was it completely different?
Well, it was technically my first internship and my first job, so I really did not have any parameters to compare it with. But what I can tell you that based on some readings before joining and speaking to a few people who have done that or who had done that before at that point, it was it lived up to its expectations. The hours were exceedingly long, but a lot of fun. The people were actually very, very nice. And yeah, I mean, it is a tremendous place, I think, to start your career in a very demanding profession, of course, but at the same time, the learning was what I call the scale effect, because you learn things so fast, so quickly, working with such brilliant people, also clients, and so on.
I still remember my old Nomura days, and you were definitely one of the most hardworking colleague during those times. You were working with Asia team, you were working with London team. You used to come in early and never used to leave office.
Thank you. Even unfortunately, that still continues a little bit, given you have to really work hard while you can. Well, now I'm more of an operator role,
Hmm.
but of course, in a high growth environment, I think the skills and the perseverance and things like that you learn when you're younger do stand the test of time. They compound over years, and we still do that here at Vivardis, where we're a small team, but we are amongst the fastest growing companies in the dental space. And so we use some of that even now. And funnily, even yesterday, I was the last person to leave the office at I don't know, pretty late and shut down the door. So we still keep up with those things when we need to.
Eventually, that becomes part of your DNA. Location wise, you have moved from Mumbai to Bangalore, then to London relatively early in your career. What was that transition like personally and professionally?
Well, I think London, well, moving first growing up in Calcutta was it's a city in eastern part of India where you have really really good universities and so on, but the industry was a bit lacking back then. And then moving to Delhi first, which was the first time while doing my masters, I was living outside all on my own. Then
Mm-hmm.
moving to Mumbai. Mumbai, of course, was very very nice. And I really enjoyed my time there. Then I moved to Bangalore for a bit. Then off to London. I think London was a brilliant place. I think if you're in finance globally, there are, or at least back then, there were a couple of center 3 or 4 place cities in the world where you had to be to
Mm-hmm.
learn and work with the best. London, New York, San Francisco back then, Hong Kong, Singapore a little bit. So you had to really be in one of those places to really grow and learn. And I was fortunate that I had that opportunity. And then, of course, I moved to Dubai for a little bit as well when I decided to do some emerging markets, private equity investments. So that was, again, a very, very interesting phase, but it only lasted a year, year and a half. And now I think Zug is a very interesting place. Now that I've moved here, my family still lives in London. So I sort of shuttle between London and Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
Zug is 20 minutes from Zurich, a big hub for medtech companies and healthcare companies, but also what people don't know, also commodity trading a little bit. There's Glencore here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it happens to be the crypto valley of Europe. So you meet very interesting people around here. I mean, it's a fantastic place if you think about where the industry, like where in general capital flows, right, from UK, in Europe, particularly UK, Switzerland is really at the heart of it. Strong family office infrastructure, really a lot of investments, partners groups headquartered here as well. Quite a large European PE, and so it's a good place to be in. Of course, with the wealth management and family office and those things, you also have a good strong linkages with the Middle East and with
Mm-hmm.
Asia as well. So it's actually at the heart of a lot of the things we're doing. And so I think it's a very interesting place. I'm enjoying my time here. It's slightly different to London.
Great. That's really interesting. And that's a lot of geographies for one career.
Hopefully more to come.
Hopefully, more to come. Switching back to London, Goldman was your first major platform in London. What did the firm teach you that you could not have learned anywhere else?
Well, I didn't work anywhere else. I mean, I worked a little bit at Nomura, but I haven't worked anywhere else. I think Goldman is a fantastic place to learn. I mean, the people were one of the sharpest. And this is not to say that there are not smart people or sharp people at other banks or other institutions. I just haven't worked with them.
Mm-hmm.
But Goldman is a fantastic place to start a career. I think I was very fortunate, or at least grow the career. The platform, really smart people, really intelligent people, some of the most hardest working investment bankers
Mm-hmm.
that I know, despite the brand and the quality. Uh, I think the key differentiator at Goldman is the ability to execute, the ability to think, and really be beside clients when things do go wrong. As you know, in
Mm-hmm.
M&A and all of in our world, things oftentimes actually go wrong, and there are very few occasions when they actually go right, and people read about the right things, but then the things that go behind it, and that's an incredible ability. So I learned a lot at my time there at Goldman. I still have friends who are working there, friends from that time who used to be colleagues and now happen to be really close friends. So I've been really fortunate to have had the time there and working there. Of course, uh, spending, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 hours when you're working on a deal in that office, you sometimes do end up spending more time with your colleagues. So that may
Of
color the
course.
judgment a little bit, as you know. But overall, I think it was a fantastic place, and I would highly recommend people to do it, or at least start their careers when they're young at at think places that that you can work with smart people, really experienced people who've been there and done that, and that will stand, I think, in will compound over years and years. A lot of my friends left and did other things, and they've been
Hmm.
probably equally successful, more successful than what they would have been, and so on. But they still, I mean, I'm sure to get those opportunities, I think where you start and where you do your first formative years, 3, 4, 5 years of your career really does matter.
And during your long phase at Goldman, what was that moment when you knew healthcare M&A is the place where you want to build your career?
Well, to be very very frank with you, like a lot of things in my life, I haven't done too much healthcare. I'm not a so I studied economics, and
Hmm.
I studied economics, maths, and so on. I really hadn't studied a lot of the healthcare things in high school. After high school, I actually hadn't. So
Hmm.
when I was put into the healthcare team, I was like, wow, this is interesting, but I really don't know much about it. And healthcare back in 2010, 11, 12, around that period was actually smaller in terms of team sizes. A lot of them were grouped with chemicals or later on with consumer, but they were it was a relatively smaller industry versus now, and teams were much smaller versus now. But what and when I started, it was really steep learning curve. I had no idea about some of the terms they were talking about and things like that, and which basically meant I had to read up a lot, and so learn a lot very quickly on the job, read up a lot on companies and technologies and things like that. And I found it fascinating. And once I found that there are real moats in healthcare, it really helps people. I mean, getting a drug or a device or a software or I mean, the field has advanced quite a lot, and really getting it to the market, having the ability to finance it and scale it, or helping people who are doing that is
Hmm.
tremendous, because you can imagine how much it helps people and humanity at large if you think about it, right?
Of course.
And it was something that people need regardless. And
Yeah.
and now I really really enjoyed it a lot, and I was put into, I'm probably one of the few people who actually has only done healthcare. Haven't done anything else outside. So even when we were in Goldman, had a consumer retail, healthcare, and real estate, I think, pulled together as when we were associates. And so, but I have never done too much outside of healthcare, and it is mostly focused on, of course, there's a bit of consumer healthcare elements to it now, but it has always been healthcare. I think it's a fantastic space. I mean, but
I'm
you
sure.
really need to know the space in a lot of detail, because there's a lot of technologies, a lot of advancements, and it's very very technical after a point in time.
Of course. And as you have rightly pointed out, you are most of the times working on businesses which affect patient outcomes and clinical standards, not just the financial returns. Do you think this changes the weight of the work?
I wouldn't say that people don't look at financial returns. People do, at least they should, I think, because if you don't have a certain rate of return, then we will also not have people innovating, to be clear.
Hmm.
And if people do not innovate, then we will not have the progress that we have seen. And so there are with even within healthcare. I mean, it's a big field if you think about it, right? I mean, I'm saying healthcare very broadly, but if you really go into in detail, you will find there are sectors within healthcare where there are different kind of returns that people do expect. It's beyond financial, right? I mean, you think about vaccines, for example, 4 years malaria vaccines, and the need for that in some emerging markets, even in India and some of the places, there are needs for other things, polio vaccine, for example. Now, those may not have real financial returns, like say, I don't know, a big biotech drugs or something, but they're also needed. And there are investors, there are who actually focus on those things. And so the weight doesn't change, but the way you think about things changes a little bit. So you have to be a bit more adaptable, and think a little bit differently in healthcare, which is very, from both from an investor perspective, but you need to first understand the business, and then you need to see, okay, look, this business has, where has it the most potential, and then linking it up to the investors who actually invest into those businesses, and that sort
Absolutely.
of determines the return profiles and so on. And returns is also impact. Impact could be a big return as well.
And you also touched upon your brief stint in Dubai at Ashmore in private equity. If you could talk us through what made you step out of banking into private equity and what made you move back into banking?
Well, one was the reason that I had left was and moved into private equity because it was a really interesting opportunity. The fund was looking into investing into emerging markets, particularly focused on healthcare. And I mean, I cannot take names, but of course, they had Ashmore had King's College Hospital, Dubai, which is a state of the art hospital, and a chain of clinics as well, which was absolutely brilliant to learn how hospitals operate, how you're setting things up, and that was a brilliant learning experience. So I was always looking to learn about that. And then while I was there, I actually spent a lot of time in Saudi Arabia, diligencing hospitals in some regions there. China, I spent a lot of time in. Then we looked at assets in Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, and it was fascinating to see that. I think emerging markets healthcare is a real growth theme for years, right? I mean, if you compare the healthcare spending, the secular drivers in there is going to stay for a long time, and we are seeing that, right? We are seeing that. And so I went because I wanted to learn about that. I thought it was a very nice sector in Dubai. I felt was a good base. But then I was missing a little bit our life in London. I have so many friends like you and others,
Mm-hmm.
with a family. And my wife and me decided that maybe we wanted to build our home and something longer term. And so we decided to move back to London. And as luck would have it, Goldman were very kind to accept me back. And so I just rejoined the same team. So it was as if nothing changed, to be fair, after that year, but it was a brilliant year.
And as they say, hardworking people are always lucky.
Well, yeah, perseverance is 80. I mean, it makes a difference, I think. Luck is a lot, 70% or 80%. I don't know how much, but you still have to. How I put it is you open the door a little bit, luck can do that for you. But if you getting into the door is a lot harder, and that is where everything else comes in.
Yeah, yeah. And you were executive director at JP Morgan, which is a serious position at one of the world's most prestigious banks. Leaving that for a dental tech firm in Switzerland, that's not an obvious next move for anyone. What was the driver behind it?
Well, I think it's a great question. Two, I mean I knew Vivardis and Haley and Goli. They came across. So I was covering medical technology companies in Europe largely while I was at JP Morgan, and I came across Haley and Goli and Vivardis I a long time ago, like just when I had joined around that time, and they were just starting out, literally selling our product in the US. So the revenues were very small. In fact, it was non-existent. But our technology and like our product, basically, I'm not an expert, but it's for early stage caries, which almost 80% of people in this world have. It is the largest non-communicable disease in the world per WHO. So I'm not making it up. And so I saw the potential because I've been in healthcare for so long, and I've seen a lot of dental companies. I've also seen a lot of other companies, and I really saw the potential and really liked it. But they were too early for given the stage they were in at that point for a bank, for the large big banks. And so I kept in touch with them and followed their progress. Kept whenever I was around in Switzerland, I would make it a point to just pop down here in Zug for and just spend an hour with them, just learning about their business, and giving them some advice if they took them. And as luck would have it, they were scaling very fast, growing very fast with really very little resources at that point. And so in 2024, towards the end of it, I somehow we decided to invite them to the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference, which is amongst the largest, if not the largest, healthcare investor conference in the world. And in 2025, it happens in January every year. And Haley and Goli were there. Without going to specifics, they came across Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan, and I was standing beside them while they were having a chat. And they told Jamie Dimon what they do, etc. And then in the keynote speech next day that Jamie Dimon traditionally gives to kick off or open the ceremony or open the conference, and he called out Haley and Goli and Vivardis, and saying that he met them and that this was really innovation, and he didn't know if it worked or not, but he said very clearly that This was something that that the JP Morgan, the conference for, and so on. Of course, people listen to Jamie Dimon a lot,
Of course, of course.
and they had a lot of investor interest and meetings during that conference. And then Bloomberg also published; they picked it up through their network, and then Bloomberg published on the fact that Jamie Dimon called out Haley and Goli, which and they were really out of Vivardis, and they were really a small
Hmm.
company. And then, of course, OrbiMed, who are one of the leading investors in healthcare, came in and invested into them. And then, of course, as we were discussing, then I thought this was a good time, having done banking for so long, to learn about how businesses scale up and grow. And I thought this was a fantastic opportunity to join and work as closely as with Haley and Goli, and also the rest of the senior executive team here, as we embark on our really tremendous growth trajectory that we have had. And then, of course, last month, Apollo, one of the largest asset managers in the world, invested into Vivardis and valuing us as an unicorn, which again validates some of the thesis. Well, you keep on growing and working hard. You're scaling very, very fast, and it's very different to working in banking, but at the same time, the learning has actually been super. Just to see how the scaling up happens, how Haley and Goli sort of think about the business, how others are thinking about the business. And you don't see those kind of things when you're advising on the other side, right? Because when you're sitting, so it's a brilliant opportunity.
And if someone like Jamie Dimon is speaking about it, it speaks volume, and there isn't enough validation you need.
It does. I also say that at the end of the day, it is also we need to keep up to the high expectations that we have, which we have been doing and we intend to do. So we have to keep up with the really high expectations, with the high growth that we have. And we have a tremendous management team here, of course, led by Haley and Goli, who are dentists themselves, self-made. They actually, I don't know if too many people know, but they actually ran one of the first, if not the first, dental clinic chain here in Switzerland, and pioneered a lot of
Interesting.
firsts, a lot of firsts, including fear-free dental, a clinic chain here in all of Europe. They scaled that, then they did that for 15, 16 years.
Really
So they're
impressive.
very experienced, and then they exited that, and then they used all their uh, they used almost everything into putting into Vivardis and scaling this one up as another venture. So they're very experienced. So you can see and learn from some of the best in the space.
Interesting. And on a personal note, when you made the move, what did you say to people closest to you, especially, for example, Pam? How did you explain the move?
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting conversation, but we have been having this conversation for a few years. I think that at some point I wanted to try my hand at a different thing, and she knew this for, I think, decades. We've been together. Pamela, my wife, as Himanshu knows, she's known me, and we've been together since high school. So,
Hmm.
so it's a long,
Hmm.
long time. So she knows me better than probably anybody else alive on this planet at this point. And so she knew that I would probably do something else at some point. The question was when. And when this opportunity arrived, it was a discussion, and she had to be a part of it. Come down over to London. They were there for some work. We had dinner together with Pamela, Haley, and Goli, and then the decision was literally made the next morning. So it was good. She's fully bought in. Absolutely. She's a big user of our product as well now that it's available.
Great, good stuff. And moving from advising companies to actually being inside one, what surprised you most about the operator that you would not have known from the outside?
A lot of things, actually. A lot of things. I think if you think about banking, investment banking, it's a quick industry, right? I mean, things are done very efficiently. I think banks are some of the most efficient places to work, at
Mhm.
least in investment banking place, because you can move very fast. Clients come to you with when things are moving faster in a more nearer term, and the urgency is always there, and people are used to it. When I moved here, I think one thing, it wasn't a big surprise, but is that we were also doing it in that pace here. I was
Mhm.
expecting to be much slower.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I was personally expecting to be much slower, but the decision making that Haley and Goli do in terms of the strategy and things like that, how quickly they can get things done is absolutely incredible. They're tremendous executioners, and one thing I learned and I hadn't appreciated it is, in banking also you have really good people who execute on deals, and
Yeah.
then you have coverage bankers and so on. That also happens to be, I think, also in the industry, which I it surprised me a little bit because Haley and Goli are brilliant at both. And I've seen some of the best. I've had the fortune to have worked with some of the best investment bankers, and they're legends in my honest opinion in banking. Um, and so just seeing that in Heli and Goli, like, they were doing so much was they are both coverage bankers, if you think about it, dealing with investors
Yeah.
and everything.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they're also tremendous executioners, making sure the business is working, running. We keep up with the growth, the sales, the go-to-market strategy, and then also some of the things that we have put in place. Using AI all the time to make sure that we are also technologically scaling up very, very fast. So all of those things, I think they are brilliant at it.
The fact that you touch upon AI, are you extensively using AI in your work these days?
Yeah, we do. I keep saying that my team is myself and and some AI agents around that do a lot of the work as well. I'm a big user of AI, and I think it will change the way people will work in the future. And I use AI a lot for a lot of things. Yeah.
And is there any particular AI platform that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend any. Do your own AI because people have different uses and some work better than the others for your particular use case. But here at Vivardis, we use Claude. We also have
Mhm.
OpenAI if people wanted to use it. So we use Claude a lot, and then I also use Perplexity as well. But that's because some models perform better and
Yeah.
in certain situations. So those are the two ones we use a lot in terms of AI tools, particularly. And then, of course, all of them have now built-in functionality for Excel, PPTs, and other things. Yeah.
Great. And outside work, how's life in Zug? And how is it different from London?
It is very, very different, right? I mean, London is a big city, big at man. I've grown up in cities, so it is very different. So in London, it's fast paced, busy. You're going on the tube, going to the office, or running around for meetings, and
Mhm.
and so on. Whereas Zug is a bit slower. I literally just take a cycle or my
Mhm.
cycle and just
Mhm.
cycle down 5 minutes to the office. It's a small town, relatively speaking. And then you have everything basically within a 15-20 minute walk radius. Uh,
Small town.
I mean, it's a city, but it is relatively smaller to London, and people know each other a lot. So a lot of people around. It's very a lot of people around. If you go to the pub on the Friday night, you will probably know the names of all the 50 people
Mhm.
in the pub at that point in time. So people look after each other a little bit more because it's a bit smaller. And overall, I think it's a great place to be in, to sort of think, but also work, and it's a cool place.
Interesting. And now thinking about your entire career, what would you say one thing which you are genuinely proud of? Um, it has one thing which has nothing to do with, say, a transaction or a fee, but you would say you are genuinely proud of.
Loads of things, but one is just being there for clients. Frankly, in banking, I think that I cannot overemphasize that. Just being there. I mean, there have been so many deals that has not been done. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, for XYZ reason, and just being there, still making sure that you're there for the clients, making sure that they're still getting advice on things that they need real advice on. I think I'm really proud of them. I can't mention the names and so on, but
Of
what
course. Mhm.
but what helps in that case is I still have clients who I can reach out to if I needed something, whether I email them or something even for Vivardis or something else. Sometimes clients, former clients who've moved on and are doing other things, reach out to me and ask me about, certain things on their businesses when clearly I may or may not be suitable to advise them on
Mhm.
that given my
Mhm. Mhm.
specializations. But
It's
but
about
yeah,
the trust.
it is more the trust. It is more just being there for them, not just thinking about fees only and the
Yeah.
mandate only and so on, but rather just being there because I think I have felt, and I'm not an expert or anybody who could be regarded as one, but I've always felt that you will always win mandates and you will always win market share and so on in a competitive industry, just by being honest, just by being truthful, just by being trustworthy, and just being there for the clients, regardless of the transactions and regardless of the fees that a transaction can potentially provide.
Yeah, it's about the kind of relation that you build
Yeah.
over longer term that will go
Yes.
a long way.
A long, long way, and that goes across. And I mean, even if somebody, and that is also true. The other thing that I also like, and I hope, I don't know if there are some analysts or associates who worked in the past listening to this, but I also tried always to be as helpful to them as possible, sort of as their sort of transition to either just helping them out, not being painful to them,
Yeah,
giving them
yeah,
exposure to clients, giving them, the support that they need when they're younger, and then mentoring them since I've been through some of the same things, or even connecting them to people that may be more relevant for them. And sometimes they move out of banking and do other things, really other cool things, and they have become clients as well in the future. And so I just trying to be supportive to people.
yeah, of course. Shifting gears again and talking a bit more about life outside transactions. Our
Hmm.
kids are exactly the same age, and we
Hmm.
have been navigating this industry while raising our young families at the same time. What do you think, from personal point of view, the things that have gone right and things which may not have gone right, in your opinion?
I think one thing that has gone right is at least having the kid and making sure the kid is safe, healthy, and doing things properly. That has thankfully gone right. But of course, I think I wish. I mean, I'm sure you probably also wish that we could spend more time with our kids and so
Of
on. I mean, there cannot be enough number of hours in the day.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
you have to also make sure that you secure their future and so on. So you have to keep working and make sacrifices, unfortunately. But that is how the world works. So that's probably not that great. Uh,
mhm,
and a little bit more for me because I live in Zug,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Zahan and Pamela are in London, so I have to keep shuttling, and we spend the weekends and so on whenever I'm there together. But it
yeah.
would be yeah. So that's something that's probably not gone that well. But yeah,
Hopefully soon. And our families have spent time together. What does it mean to have friendships from the industry that go beyond the professional world?
always. I'm a big relationship person, as you can tell. Hopefully,
Hmm.
and for me, like I was saying, a lot of my friends are I mean, because you work so much in investment banking, you do tend to land up, if you work long enough, with
Yeah,
friends from the
yeah.
same sort of an industry, or you work in same banks, and they move on or you move on, but the relationships, and they stay for a very, very long time, right? And so I'm not surprised. I actually have more friends who used to be either in banking and then moved and do other things and so on. And I try as much as possible to stay in touch as well. It's an effort, but
Hmm.
I've always been rewarded and benefited personally. So it's a bit selfish perhaps from that effort. But yeah, to the extent possible, I also try to keep in touch with people.
And where can people find you if they want to follow your work or get in touch?
Anywhere, LinkedIn, I'm probably the most easiest person to find, right? I mean, WhatsApp's good for me. LinkedIn is also good for me. Emails are also good for me. I try to be as responsive when I can, and that's probably the easiest one. But I can't say that I'm the most social media active person, and hopefully we can change that at some point. Uh,
As long as you're responsive, that's what matters.
yeah, but of course I try. Hopefully, I mean, you could tell about that, I think.
Perfect. We always close M&A station with a rapid fire round. First, honest answer,
That
no
worries me.
elaboration. Ready? Good. I'll start. Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, which suited
Both,
you more?
both.
Banker or operator, which one are you really?
Uh, Recovering banker,
Okay. M&A or capital raising, which is most satisfying to execute?
M&A.
Most overrated thing about working at a bulge bracket bank?
That's a tough one. Most overrated. Just that you work at a big bank, the bragging rights, I think, because the work
Mhm.
is equally good across.
Okay. And on that note, what is the most underrated thing?
Underrated thing of working at a bulge bracket bank, I think you get some tremendous benefits versus some of the boutiques in terms of the
Mhm.
network that you get
Course.
over
Mhm.
across
Okay.
other verticals of the industry.
Yeah. And what is the healthcare deal that you are most proud of?
Vivaris, I think I would say, right? I mean, we did the race. I would be the most proud of it.
No personal bias, right?
Which side I stand always.
Yeah, absolutely. Mumbai, London, Dubai, or Zug? Which city is best for living?
London is a good one for sure. With Dubai and Zug being very very close second. Yeah,
Best thing about Switzerland, which nobody tells you before you move there.
a lot of things. The weather is great. People are great. The food is actually quite good. So
Mhm.
lots of things that people don't tell you before you move here.
And one thing which you miss most about London?
Indian food.
There is no Indian food in Zug at the
There,
moment.
there, there is, but London obviously has some of the best Indian food, I think, or like it's all over, right? And you can, the access
Mhm.
to it is quite good here. You have to travel a little bit, but yeah,
If you had to go back to banking tomorrow, would you?
unlikely at this point in time, given where we are, but at some point in the future, we never say never.
Finally, what does Sayan Bhattacharya do on a Sunday morning in Zug?
I read. I read a lot. Yes, I do read a lot. Not books or anything, but mostly about things that interest me. So I used to quiz a lot when I was younger, and I used to quiz a lot even until university. So I do still read on like the news, what's happening in the world, things that interest me a little bit these days, like stable coins, cryptos, or like anything that's sort of interesting. And I read a lot.
Reading is always the best habit.
Yeah, and very little of healthcare to be fair, because I'm reading that
Mhm.
too a week.
Great. Shayon, I've always wanted to have this conversation for a long time, not because of the $250 billion, not because of Goldman or JP Morgan, but because you are one of the people I watched make decisions in this career from the very beginning. We sat in the same building in Mumbai in 2011 with
Mhm.
absolutely no idea what the next 15 years would look like. And here we are, you in Zug, something entirely new, me in London doing similar kind of a stuff in a different way with the kids, same age, who will most likely end up having similar kind of conversation in most likely 25 years.
For sure,
What
for sure.
strikes me most about your story is that every chapter has been a deliberate bet on yourself, and I think that's what M&A Station is really about. Not the deals, but the people who make them. For anyone listening who wants to connect with Shayon, whether that's about the healthcare M&A, the operator transition, or the work he does supporting innovative healthcare founders, his details are going to be in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to M&A Station wherever you listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, wherever that is for you, and share it with one person in your network who you think would get benefit from it. That's genuinely the best thing you can do to help the show grow. I'm Himanshu Singh. See you in the next one.